the big topic on the US and Israel's mind right now is Iran. Mm-hmm. And Iran just had a recent election too, vastly different from Israel's, but I think the coinciding time really shows the difference between free and fair elections and elections that are manipulated. And the US State Department has come out and said that they don't believe that the elections that Iran had were free and fair. They do believe that there was, they had the lowest voter turnout ever in their history. And I think the people of Iran are really showing that they know what's going on and that this is difficult for them. So to back it up and just kind of give the full perspective. So Iran had this election about 2 weeks ago, and the winner was tapped by this board. There's this unelected board of religious clerics that get together and they say, okay, out of 100 different people, these are the people we want to run. Those are the people that run. And their top pick is normally the pick that they want to win. And that's exactly what we saw. The leader is someone who has been sanctioned by the United States, the EU, and for gross human rights violations. And he's actually named the Butcher of Tehran because of his leadership in the judiciary and using that position to violate people's human rights and just carry out vicious acts. And it's well known, well documented. Again, I think that the US and the EU having sanctions against him personally just goes to show how egregious those violations are. And it's concerning that this is now their leader. While that's taking place, we know that the United States has been trying to negotiate with Iran to come up with a joint comprehensive plan of action, which happened in 2015. The US pulled out of, and now with an administration change, they're trying to negotiate to come back and have like a second JCPOA. There's been a lot of hiccups along the way, one of which I think we saw on Sunday night was President Biden issued a second airstrike attack against Iranian militias in Iraq and Syria. And he really is showing, yes, we're going to negotiate with you. There's things that we're trying to come to an agreement on, but there is a line that we won't allow to be crossed. And so they're trying to move both along at the same time. I don't know how well that's going to work out as far as actually getting Iran to agree to something. And the newly elected president actually said that he has no interest in negotiating with the US or coming into another JCPOA. And again, it just shows where sentiments are and how we're going to be moving forward. So for Israel, obviously, this is of great concern because Iran has proxies in their area. And recently we saw what those proxies can do. One of the proxies sits along Israel's southern border in Gaza. It's called Hamas. And they are the ones that really started that rocket attack into Israel that led to just thousands of rockets going into Israel and killing Palestinians and Israelis. And, it took an effort from the international community to quell that violence and that outrage that happened from the international community too was directly put on Israel for their retaliation to what was happening. And I think Pastor Hagee going to Israel recently too shows just how important it is for the US to say, we're here, we support you, we want to know what's going on the ground. And that's exactly what's been happening. So there's a lot transpiring. I think as things play out, we're going to see more and more what is attainable. But as far as negotiations, elections, all of this is just a precursor to what is going to happen in the end. If I had to guess, I would say just from what Iran is saying, their officials, we're not going to get to another JCPOA. I don't think a lot of American diplomats even want that. Congress has said we need to make sure that if we do, that it is agreed upon and signed off through Congress. CUFI had a poll that came out not too long ago that showed the American people agree with that. If we come into another agreement with Iran, it does need to go before the Senate and be ratified as a treaty, because we need something that is more tangible, and the accountability is going to be there between all parties instead of just something at the top level, which we know, again, democratic nations, you have elections, there's a transfer in power, there's different policy agendas, and that changes.